The faint light of the morning filtered through the frosted glass window of the courtroom, creating an atmosphere that was both solemn and suffocating. The courtroom was more crowded than usual. A minor case involving public disturbance wasn't usually something that would draw a crowd. But with Judge Robert Miller presiding, everything became noteworthy. Robert, known for his arrogant demeanor and biased rulings, had become the center of controversy in the community. Monica Carter entered the courtroom, her demeanor calm but her gaze sharp. She wore simple clothes, a white blouse and black trousers, like any ordinary citizen. With her long, curly black hair neatly tied back and her deep brown skin, she was an easy target for curious and sometimes contemptuous stares. Monica didn't mind. She was used to being judged based on her appearance. The trial began with the imposing presence of Judge Miller. He entered the room with an air of self-satisfaction, slowly banging his gavel on the desk. Monica was accused of disrupting public order, an accusation she knew was baseless. In a sudden turn of events, Monica had helped a young black boy avoid being wrongly arrested by the police. But this act had led her to be listed as a troublemaker. Defendant, do you have anything to say before the court delivers its sentence? Judge Miller asked, his tone cold. Monica raised her head and looked him directly in the eye, her gaze resolute. Your Honor, I did nothing wrong. I was simply protecting a boy from injustice. Robert sneered, his eyes flashing with contempt. Injustice? You speak as if you understand what justice is. But let me tell you, the law is not for you to judge. Without waiting for Monica to respond, he continued, the court sentences the defendant to 30 days of community service and a fine of $5,000. This trial is over. A loud bang of the gavel signaled the end of the trial. Monica said nothing more, but her eyes remained fixed on Robert for a long moment, as if she had seen through every corner of his soul. As the courtroom door closed behind Monica, she stepped outside in silence. No one knew that Monica Carter was not an ordinary woman. She was a senior FBI agent, one of the best in the field of investigating corruption and underground power. Monica returned to her small apartment, where she lived as an ordinary citizen to serve her covert mission. As soon as she closed the door, she powered up her laptop and logged into the FBI's internal system. A stream of information appeared on the screen, including detailed files on Judge Robert Miller. He's truly a wolf in sheep's clothing, Monica muttered. Robert Miller was not only a powerful judge. He was also a key figure in a network of corruption involving big businesses and politicians. Today's trial, instead of making Monica feel injustice, opened up an opportunity for her to dig deeper into the system. Monica was not the only one who had been wronged by Robert. She found numerous similar cases, especially among minority communities. The victims of Robert had one thing in common. They lacked the financial power or status to fight against the system. She picked up the phone and called her supervisor, Agent Samuel Gray. Samuel, I need the green light to investigate Robert Miller further. He's not just a corrupt judge. He's involved in illegal activities. Samuel agreed but warned Monica that the mission would be very dangerous. Monica simply smiled. She was ready for the fight. In the following days, Monica began to delve deeper into Robert's past. Through public records and some classified documents from the FBI, she discovered that Robert had a controversial history. Coming from a wealthy and influential family, Robert used his connections to rise to the position of judge without truly earning it. Monica also uncovered evidence of Robert accepting bribes from large corporations. He regularly made rulings favorable to these companies in exchange for large sums of money funneled into his secret offshore accounts. One of the things that particularly caught Monica's attention was how Robert handled cases involving black people or other minority groups. In over 10 years as a judge, Robert had an unusually high conviction rate for black defendants, while being very lenient with white defendants. Monica decided to reach out to people who had been victims of Robert. An elderly woman recounted, "He not only fined me unfairly, but he also humiliated me in front of the entire courtroom. He thought we didn't deserve respect. Monica took note of each story, each piece of evidence. She knew she was touching a much larger system, more dangerous than she had imagined. Monica knew she couldn't do everything alone. She began searching for allies within the justice system, people dissatisfied with Robert and eager for change. One of the first people she approached was Linda Harris, a court clerk who had worked under Robert for many years. "Linda, I need your help to expose the truth," Monica said. "You've seen how many wrongs he's committed. This is our chance to make a change." At first, Linda was scared, but when Monica showed her the evidence, Linda decided to cooperate. "I've had enough. He thinks he can control everything. But I won't let him do that anymore." With Linda's help, Monica obtained several important documents, including emails between Robert and several powerful businessmen, revealing his under-the-table dealings. Robert Miller entered his office, a large room decorated with expensive paintings and luxurious furniture, reflecting his power and wealth. To many, Robert was the epitome of success, but to Monica, he was nothing more than a mask hiding a corrupt soul. After days of meticulous preparation, Monica decided to set a trap to test the extent of Robert's corruption. She disguised herself as a successful businesswoman named Vivian Hayes, running a rising tech company. Through an ally in the legal field, Monica arranged a private meeting with Robert, proposing an under-the-table deal to protect her company's interests in a fictitious lawsuit. At an upscale restaurant in the city center, Monica walked in with confident poise, her black curly hair neatly tied back, and her elegant business suit exuded authority. Robert was already sitting at the table, his usual arrogant demeanor apparent. "Judge Miller, it's an honor to meet you," Monica said, her voice perfect, sounding like a wealthy but cunning entrepreneur. Robert smiled, his eyes betraying a sense of greed. He was accustomed to meetings like these, where power and money were exchanged quietly. "I'm also pleased to meet you, Ms. Hayes. I hear your company is facing some legal troubles." Monica smiled, taking a sip of wine. "Yes, and I believe that with your help, we can resolve everything swiftly." Robert leaned back in his chair, smirking. "Of course, I always support businesses that respect the law. But you understand, everything comes with a price." Monica pretended to think it over, then offered a large sum of money to ensure a favorable ruling for her company. Robert agreed without hesitation, and the conversation continued with details on how the money would be transferred. The entire conversation was recorded by Monica, adding to her growing collection of evidence of his illegal activities. When Monica returned to her apartment, she carefully backed up the recording and documents onto an encrypted hard drive. Her work required absolute caution, but tonight, memories from the past flooded back. Monica grew up in a poor neighborhood, where she often faced racism and injustice. Her mother, a hardworking nurse, always taught Monica that knowledge and determination were the strongest weapons to overcome adversity. A painful memory surfaced in her mind. When Monica was a child, her father was wrongfully accused of a theft he did not commit. The judge at the time ignored the evidence and sentenced her father unjustly, and he died in prison just a year later. That pain had driven Monica to pursue a career with the FBI. She not only wanted to protect the vulnerable but also wanted to change the system from within. Now, facing Robert Miller, she realized that she was fighting not only for justice but also for the painful memories of her own past. The documents Monica gathered not only revealed Robert's misconduct but also exposed the existence of a covert power network. Emails, bank transactions, and confidential records showed that Robert was not acting alone. He was a key player in a large organization, including businessmen, politicians, and influential figures within the judicial system. One name appeared repeatedly in the documents: Victor Reynolds, a wealthy businessman and longtime friend of Robert. Victor was behind many underground deals, using his relationship with Robert to protect his own interests. Monica decided to investigate Victor further. She attended a charity event hosted by Victor, posing as a potential investor. The event was held at an opulent mansion, where the city's most powerful people gathered. With her confident appearance and captivating demeanor, Monica easily blended into the crowd. While conversing with some of the guests, Monica overheard a conversation between Victor and Robert. They were discussing a major construction project, where Robert promised to help Victor secure the contract by manipulating legal rulings. Monica quietly recorded the conversation, but she knew that approaching Victor would not be easy. This man was dangerous, and he would not hesitate to use violence to protect his interests. Monica's actions began to make Robert feel uneasy. He realized that something was unusual about this woman. Robert's connections started to notice Monica frequently appearing at important locations, and they began investigating her in return. One evening, as Monica was about to leave her apartment, she received an anonymous message. "Stop before it's too late. We know who you are." She calmly deleted the message and immediately activated the security system in her apartment. The next day, as Monica drove to the FBI headquarters, she noticed a black car following her. She tried to throw them off by leading the car down a quiet road, where she stopped and confronted the tailgaters directly. Two men got out of the car, but Monica, with her well-trained combat skills, quickly subdued them. Before the police arrived at the scene, Monica took one of the tailgaters' phones. It contained several messages showing that Robert had ordered her to be followed. This was not just a threat, but a sign that she was getting very close to the truth. Monica knew she was playing a dangerous game, but with unwavering determination, she silently promised herself that she would expose all these corrupt individuals, no matter the cost. The night enveloped the city, the streetlights glittering but unable to illuminate the dark corners of the corrupt judicial system. Monica stood in front of the administrative building where Robert Miller worked, her hand tightly gripping the briefcase containing her investigative tools. She had a clear plan: break into Robert's office to gather more evidence, particularly the sensitive documents he kept hidden away. She had spent several days surveilling and planning. Robert's office was on the third floor, protected by an advanced security system and a dense team of guards. But for Monica, these obstacles were merely small challenges. With the skills of an FBI agent, she was fully prepared to handle them. At 2 a.m., Monica began to move, dressed in a tight black suit and wearing night vision goggles. She quietly entered the building through the back emergency exit. Using a small electronic device, she disabled the security cameras in seconds. Her footsteps were light, making no noise whatsoever. Reaching Robert's office door, she faced a sophisticated electronic lock. Calmly, she used a decoding device she had brought with her to break the lock. A small click sounded as the door opened. Inside, Robert's office exuded power, with a desk made of fine wood, bookshelves full of documents, and a large safe placed behind a hanging painting. Monica quickly rifled through the documents on the desk. She found several printed emails related to shady dealings between Robert and Victor Reynolds. Most importantly, there was a memo signed by Robert confirming the acceptance of a bribe from a construction company in exchange for a favorable ruling. However, the most crucial information remained in the safe. Monica used a special stethoscope to listen to the safe's lock mechanism. After several tense minutes, the safe opened, revealing a series of important documents, including a list of wire transfers into Robert's offshore accounts. Suddenly, Monica heard footsteps. A patrolling guard had noticed the office door open. Monica quickly turned off the light and hid behind the door. As the guard entered, she executed a swift, silent move, knocking him unconscious without making a sound. Wasting no time, Monica left the office with all the necessary documents. Monica returned to her apartment and immediately backed up the documents she had just obtained onto a secure hard drive. These pieces of evidence were not only enough to convict Robert, but could also shake the very underground power network he was involved in. However, Monica did not know that her actions had been discovered. Victor Reynolds, upon hearing that Robert's office had been broken into, immediately ordered an investigation to find out who was behind it. He hired a group of professional mercenaries to follow and deal with Monica. One evening, as Monica was driving home after a meeting with an ally, she realized she was being followed. 3 cars were tailing her, headlights glaring in the rearview mirror. Monica stayed calm, accelerated, and led the followers onto a narrow road. The chase was intense. Monica used all the driving skills she had learned to throw them off her trail. When she reached a deserted intersection, she suddenly slammed on the brakes, causing one of the cars behind her to crash into a utility pole. The other 2 continued to tail her, but Monica managed to reach a safe spot. She called Agent Samuel Gray to report the situation. Samuel warned Monica that this power network would stop at nothing to protect their interests. Monica knew that she had to act quickly before things spiraled out of control. Monica decided to expand her circle of allies. She reached out to a famous anti-corruption lawyer, David Hunter. David had faced off against many powerful figures and had a strong voice in the legal community. Monica, these pieces of evidence are enough to bring down not just Robert Miller but his entire network, David said after reviewing the documents. But you'll need strong legal support. They'll try everything to silence you. Monica agreed to work with David. The 2 of them began preparing for a major lawsuit, where Monica would provide evidence and testimony about Robert and his associates' criminal activities. Meanwhile, Monica also received help from Linda Harris, the court secretary who had worked under Robert. Linda provided additional internal documents, including Robert's work logs, which detailed suspicious meetings with powerful figures. The legal battle was starting to take shape, and Monica knew that this would be the biggest fight of her career. Robert Miller was not an easy target. After learning that he was under investigation, he used all his connections to protect himself. The figures in Robert's network began spreading false rumors about Monica, accusing her of involvement in illegal activities. The media was manipulated, and Monica's reputation was severely threatened. Not stopping there, Robert targeted Monica's family. Her mother received anonymous threats, and her house was vandalized by an unknown assailant. Monica had to take her mother to a safe place and increase her personal security. Meanwhile, Robert held a secret meeting with members of his network to discuss how to handle the lawsuit. They decided to bribe and intimidate witnesses to weaken the case. Despite the immense pressure, Monica remained determined and refused to back down. She knew that justice wouldn't come on its own. It required relentless fighting. With the support of David and Linda, she continued gathering more evidence and preparing for the day in court. The day of the trial arrived, and the event drew national attention. The courtroom was packed with people, journalists, social activists, and curious citizens eager to witness the battle between justice and corruption. For Monica, this was her final opportunity to expose the truth. But it was also the toughest battle of her career. Robert Miller entered the courtroom with a calm demeanor, but his eyes revealed his anxiety. In contrast, Monica appeared strong, ready to face any obstacle. She knew that today wasn't just about her, but about the many people who had been harmed by Robert and his network of power. David Hunter, Monica's attorney, began by presenting documents that proved Robert had taken bribes from major corporations. The evidence included emails, bank transfers, and recordings that Monica had collected. Each piece of evidence in the corruption puzzle was clearly presented, causing the tension in the courtroom to rise. Despite his best efforts to stay calm, Robert couldn't hide his growing panic as the evidence piled up against him. He demanded that his lawyer dismiss the evidence on the grounds of privacy invasion. But David strongly countered, emphasizing that the materials were legally obtained during the FBI's investigation. Monica took the stand, recounting in detail how she gathered evidence and witnessed Robert's wrongdoings. Her voice was firm, and her gaze locked with Robert's, as if to say, "Justice will ultimately prevail." As the trial was broadcast on major television channels, the public began to fully realize the extent of corruption within the judicial system. Thousands of people took to the streets, demanding a fairer system. Stories of victims who had been wronged by Robert were widely shared on social media, sparking waves of outrage. Many other victims, who had once been too fearful to speak out, now began sending testimony and documents to Monica's legal team. Some witnesses decided to come forward despite threats from those within the power network. The media, which had previously been controlled by powerful figures, now turned to support Monica. Articles, investigative reports, and television programs all condemned Robert and his allies, putting immense pressure on the judicial system to handle the case fairly. Victor Reynolds, realizing the increasingly unfavorable situation, began to look for a way out. He severed all ties with Robert and prepared to leave the country. But Monica, with the support of the FBI team, intervened in time. Victor was arrested at the airport, and his cooperation with the FBI uncovered crucial information about the corruption network. The day of the verdict arrived, and the entire nation turned its attention to the trial. Monica, sitting in the front row, watched each development with calm determination. Robert Miller, who had once stood at the peak of power, now stood in the defendant's dock with a pale face. The presiding judge, known for his integrity, read the verdict. Robert was sentenced to 20 years in prison for charges of corruption, bribery, and abuse of power. All of his assets, including offshore accounts, were seized to compensate the victims. As the sentence was delivered, applause erupted in the courtroom. Monica didn't smile, but her eyes gleamed with satisfaction. This was not just her victory, but the victory of everyone who had fought for justice. Robert was led away, and his image, once that of a revered judge, now stood as a powerful warning to those who abuse power within the system. Although Robert had been convicted, Monica knew that the battle was far from over. She and the FBI team continued to dig deeper into the underground power network that Robert had been a part of. The documents provided by Victor revealed a long list of names involved, from politicians and business tycoons to high-ranking officials within the judicial system. A series of arrests took place across the country, causing the network to collapse completely. Many key figures were brought to light, and new cases were filed. This event marked a major turning point in the reform of the judicial system, bringing hope to those who had lost faith in justice. After completing her mission, Monica was awarded a medal for her outstanding contributions to upholding justice. However, she refused to rest. For her, this job was not just a responsibility but a mission. Monica stood by the window of her FBI office, looking out at the city. The sky was clear, a symbol of a new future, where justice was no longer shrouded by the darkness of corruption. She knew that the battle had never been easy, but she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. "We've won a battle," she thought quietly, "but the fight for justice continues." Although she had achieved a major victory in the Robert Miller case and the underground power network, Monica felt she had not fully freed herself from the weight of the past. The memories of her father, the man wrongfully accused and who died in prison, continued to haunt her. During the break after the case, Monica decided to return to her hometown to confront the unresolved pain. Monica went back to the poor neighborhood where she grew up. The narrow streets and old, cracked walls had witnessed her difficult childhood. Mrs. Evelyn, Monica's mother, still lived in their old house. When Monica entered, Mrs. Evelyn smiled, but her eyes showed concern. "You did well, Monica," she said, hugging her. "But I know there's still a lot you haven't let go of." Monica sat down at the kitchen table, where she had once sat listening to her father tell stories when she was a child. "I can't forget, Mom. It feels like every step I take is for Dad. But maybe I've forgotten how to live for myself." Mrs. Evelyn took Monica's hand. "Your father would be proud of you, not just because you've found justice, but because you've turned your pain into strength. But don't let that pain imprison you. You deserve happiness." Monica fell silent. Her mother's words seemed to lift part of the darkness in her heart. She decided that, besides continuing to fight for justice, she would also find a way to live a more fulfilling life, filled with joy and hope. after the underground power network was dismantled, Monica was invited to join a nationwide judicial reform project. This was an initiative by the government to prevent people like Robert Miller from abusing power in the future. With her experience and determination, Monica accepted the role of advisor. The project was not easy. Monica faced resistance from those still loyal to the old system, some powerful judges and lawyers, though not directly involved in corruption, continued to defend outdated rules to maintain their personal interests. During a meeting, an elderly judge strongly opposed the proposed reforms. "We can't break tradition just because of a few rotten apples," he said loudly. Glaring at Monica, Monica didn't back down. She stood up, her gaze resolute. "It's not tradition being broken, but justice being reborn. If we don't act now, the corruption will continue to spread, and the people will never trust us again." Her powerful words began to sway some people in the room. Gradually, she convinced several key figures to join the reform effort. New laws were passed, including stricter oversight measures for the judicial system and stronger protections for victims of corruption. Although the judicial system was beginning to change, Monica knew the battle was far from over. She received a report from her colleagues at the FBI about a new rising network involved in drug trafficking and money laundering. This network operated discreetly, using legitimate businesses as a cover and enjoying protection from some officials. Monica didn't hesitate to take on the mission. She began investigating, following the traces left by suspicious financial transactions. After months of covert investigation, Monica discovered that one of the leaders of this network was a former judge who had closely collaborated with Robert Miller. This investigation was much more dangerous. Monica was constantly being followed, and she narrowly escaped an ambush after leaving a meeting with a source. However, with support from her teammates at the FBI, she slowly began to crack the shell of the network. In a large-scale raid, Monica and her team captured several key members of the network. This operation was not only a major victory but also a testament that justice could be more powerful than any dark force. On a beautiful morning, Monica stood on the balcony of the FBI office, looking out at the city awakening. The sunlight spread everywhere, symbolizing hope and renewal. She knew that the fight against corruption and injustice would never end. But she also realized that every victory, no matter how small, contributed to making the world a better place. Monica received a letter from her mother. In the letter, Evelyn wrote, "My dear, your father used to say that the light of justice never goes out. As long as there are people like you to keep the torch burning, I am so proud of you." She smiled, holding the letter as a reminder of why she chose this path. Monica decided to continue her mission, but this time, she allowed herself to seek more joy and peace in life. As she left the office, Monica walked down the stairs with lighter steps than ever. She was not just an outstanding FBI agent. She was a symbol of resilience and faith in justice. For her, every day was a new opportunity to illuminate the world.